I think after I started watching the show and started seeing all the the various memes that people were posting and stuff, I just on a whim checked FADA, any of the art posting sites that I go to, and just what the heck? Maybe someone will have something up there, and holy crap, that I opened the can of worms, and I have yet to even scratch the bottom of it, and I will never close that can. So
I started because my son started watching it and sat and watched it with him, and suddenly I found myself going through the cable guide and looking for all the episodes and started watching them all and, get a little picked on at work, but it's all good.
When I discovered the fandom, I kind of went into the fandom before I even watched an episode. I was in the fandom for about 8 months before I watched the first episode. I was even writing fan fiction before I watched an episode. I was getting all my information from the roleplay chats I was doing. So it was about December of 2011 when I finally watched an episode and said, oh yeah, I guess I am a brony.
It started when I was on Tumblr and looking at I saw some Team Fortress 2 ponies. It's going.
Oh, okay.
I went to film school. I know how to do equipment, but no, I went to. And there were Team Fortress, all the ponies dressed up as Team Fortress classes, and I was like, "What? Why are there ponies? What's going on?" And then I started watching the YouTube, some of the episodes on YouTube and some of the AMVs and stuff, and I was like, "Wow, this is pretty cool." It was just hilarious from there.
See, the thing is that I'm always, the same kind of nice person. I always look at the morals at the very end, the different kind of letters to Celestia. I always say, oh, those are, sometimes corny, but, sometimes they're, very kind of interesting messages. And what I like to do is that all of a sudden if my friend is feeling very down or there's actually a similar situation that happened on the show, then I just go oh, copy and paste, copy pasta, send it to the friend and just explain about the letter and oh my gosh, that really helped out a lot. And we're yeah, it helps a lot of people out, And so I've seen it actually help a lot of different kind of people. Some of my friends that were having a rough life before, when they actually were introduced to the show, they actually became better, or they actually kind of lived, a happier kind of life. It doesn't go with everyone or every pony, but I've seen it actually change some people. So
for me, it started when I was a senior in high school. I was in a furry chat room, and everyone was raging about how bronies were a menace or something. So I started watching it, and then I figured it was right up my alley because I was also watching the Care Bear families just to be ironic.
Well, of course I had some friends who made fun of me about it, but they only really joke about it. They don't really mean it. And my dad thinks it's weird. And and then I have other friends who are all yeah, ponies. So yeah, that's pretty much how they react to it.
I know when I pretty much first started telling people that I was a brony, I told, my parents caught me watching videos on the internet, and my parents were just what? And I was I gotta explain this. But since then, they've pretty much taken it as cool, and I've told many of my friends, many of my coworkers that I watched the show, and at first it was all, everyone was bronies, that's gay, or all this other stupid crap that people say, and I was just I've always been a pretty good person, but when people start infringing on what I believe or something like that, I get very defensive, and that, I think, is toned down a lot since I started watching the show. I think I used to be overly serious on a lot of matters as well, and I think the show has also helped me take everything in stride and with a grain of salt, especially since the Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000 episode where Applejack is my lesson I learned nothing at all. It was just and to me, after watching that and realizing, looking back at all the other lessons that Twilight Sparkle and all the other ponies have learned, the show does a really good job of encapsulating just about every aspect of life that you can kind of throw into it, whether or not it's ponified or actually fairly serious. And I think that has helped me come to grips that you can't take life so seriously, and that just being able to kind of go with how everything flows is a little bit easier than trying to be this is where I stand and here's my rock. Don't touch it. It's my rock.
For me, I've been in the furry fandom for many years, and so I kind of had always been relatively, tolerant of people being like, "Oh, that's weird. Why do you do that?" And having misconceptions about what you do. And so for me, when I joined the Brony fandom, it was, in watching the shows and everything, it reminded me more of, like, okay, here is, love and tolerate and everything like that. And basically, it reminded me, okay, here are these morals and the show is expressing them. And it kind of reminded me like, okay, I should try, I should try and be better to the people who don't understand, for the people who, have misconceptions, because, they don't quite understand it, and you have to, kind of love and tolerate and, kind of help them to understand what's going on, even when they come at you and they, basically call you whatever sort of name that, they want. And, you just kind of have to take a step back and think, okay, what would Twilight Sparkle do in this situation? She'd toss a book at them. That's me.